Welcome back, guys, to the Sports and Entertainment Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Marie, and it's really great to have you guys joining us back in the studio today. Appreciate all your support, follows, likes. Please continue and keep it up. Share with your friends and family. We would appreciate that. Pain management is something we're going to be focusing on today. In the sports profession, it is a topic of not only great expense, but wide controversies. Someone who knows us really well is our sports chiropractor that we've got with us today, who's worked formerly with the Buccaneers. And he's also a developer of a highly successful stem regenerative procedure. And I'm very excited to have him with us today. We've got Dr. Tommy Rhee with us. Dr. Tommy, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, you know what? This is going to be a hoop time because we are starting off in a great stepping stone here.
Here. We've done some quick on the fly transitioning here, and I love it. And it's just how life goes, right?
Yeah. Look, like you said, these type of conversations, when they start off in a chaotic way, turn out to be like one of the best conversations to have.
It's so true. You're not wrong at all. That's exactly right. So Dr. Tommy, obviously you didn't wake up and decide that, well, maybe you did. You wanted to get into sports. But what got you into the medical side? So chiropractor, and then later, sports, the pain management. What is some of the stepping stones that got you started?
So I come from a line of doctors. So my dad was a surgeon, uncle, aunts, all in the medical world. And it was pretty much inherited to me to be this kind of provider and to help people. But another thing that I love was sports. I was very active. I played sports, high school, and really enjoyed that side of things. So the combination of two just kind of blended well, because I know that in college, I don't have that super height. I'm only 5'0" or something. I don't know what I'm at. 5. Last time I was thinking it was 5'8", but I think, that age took me down to 5'7". So I knew that I still want to be in the sports world. And, it just kind of linked together as to be a, doctor of these athletes so they can get the best out of themselves. So, just knowing that side of myself, I took that approach and moved forward. So when I go into that world, I see, what I wanted. There's a lot of doctors out there in the sports world. So I found the best sports guy that I wanted to emulate. So that's who I trended towards, and it then led me to where I'm at now.
That's actually really smart. Who was that?
That was Dr. Santos in Los Angeles. Now, he was a great chiropractor. He was, elite athlete, Olympians, and he really kind of like set the trend to where I'm at now.
That's really amazing. Now, what is the progression that you needed to take to get into a pro athlete position, working on a team like that with the NFL?
Okay, so the biggest thing that is important is when you're going through school and you're doing that learning and you're trying to understand anatomy and mechanics and biomechanics, especially, you've got to really hone into that. You really have to specialize and really go further than what the school teaches you. Just don't listen to the class, take your test, and next thing you know it, you forget, right? You want to continue to learn about like the really mechanism of a joint and understand that everybody's different and know how to palpate and feel what a normal tissue feels like. So when the abnormal shows up, you're like, I know that constraint. I know there's a tear there. I know something's different about this. So a lot of hands-on. So once you get recognized, and then next thing you know, you always start small. You start either high school level or maybe junior college or college level. And I was fortunate enough that I started off at UCLA. UCLA allowed me to have that type of high caliber athlete. So now I get to see what I'm doing, who I'm doing with it, and then the performance dictate if I'm doing it correctly. So once that trend keeps going further, it goes, all right, now your word gets out faster. They go, here, there's Dr. Rhee, he's doing this. So then the next thing you know, they graduate, they go in the pro world, and now you're following them either at the Olympic level side, the team side, you're just working with them that side of it. So for you guys starting off, the biggest thing is the knowledge. You've got to get the knowledge, not only the actual, understanding the knowledge of what anatomy and memorizing, but the memorizing and the knowledge of palpating. It's really getting the feel of a normal tissue versus the abnormal. So that's the best recommendation I would have for you young guys.
I love that. I think that's super smart because everybody's different and you have to know how to tailor to each individual. And if you don't know how that individual person was prior or like the general even, you're really going to be struggling, especially to meet that person on their level, not just to help them for the basics, but to be able to go deeper and to actually get to root causes and problems. So, I mean, that's
Yes.
basic knowledge from, and I'm not medical professional. Please do not listen to me on that side. But yeah, so
Yeah, and the neat thing about like each team, each sport, they have their particular injuries, but then you have to break it down to each position on that team has their own individual type of like, situation that they may come across. So it's kind of interesting that when someone presents to me now and I ask the generic question, because the questions will help you kind of lead towards what type of injury or what the syndrome is. So sports, what team, what event, and then what position. And then from there, it kind of narrows down your diagnosis faster. So then you can really get to the root cause of what the issue is faster once you had that experience. So, experience getting out there and don't be afraid of getting your hands on people. You have to really see the normal versus that abnormal, and then something's weird.
that's very true. Appreciate you sharing. Um, Doctor, so regenerative medicine, this is something that you're specializing in. How does that differ from the traditional sports medicine, pain management that's probably was more talked about earlier on? I think there's more uh, kind of holistic methods coming into sports, but tell us a little bit about what that is, kind of a different approach on it.
Okay, so the big thing was, especially with NFL players, in season, off season. We'll talk about in season. So when you talk about in season, these contracts are not like guaranteed. It's based on performance and bonuses, based on their ability to do some particular, like how many touchdowns, how many first downs, how many minutes you're playing the game. So they want to get back on the field, and it's played like once a week. So when someone gets injured and they want like regenerative medicine, which we know that it just kind of helps you out, generates tissue that's damaged to heal faster, mechanism. Well, the problem with that is that when you do an injectable, like a stem cell therapy, you have downtime. With that downtime, you may lose 2-3 weeks because you have a primary injury site. And then because of the needle going in there, you have a secondary injury site. So now you have to deal with 2 sites. So that's why there's downtime. So NFL guys during the season don't do that type of injectable and stem cell. What they do instead is they do pain management. Like they numb the pain. They kind of like hide the pain. They do something that kind of like, that pain manager where you do like something like some kind of Novocaine-ish kind of world that really like masks the pain. So then you don't feel any of that issue and you're able to perform. And then they always say off season is where I'll deal with it. I'll do like a surgery or I'll do some type of better rehab. But that's the difference of that regenerative medicine in season. Now with these athletes off season, they do stem cell therapy. It's the most classic thing they do. They hit all their joints that they're prone to injuries, knee, hips, back, and then they have the ability to recover from that injections. So the big thing with that is that you don't really see or hear about like that therapy applied during the season. Now you apply that to like normal civilians as far as like weekend warriors and people that are into like a sport like pickleball. That's a big thing out there. So they want to play. So you try to get somebody that's playing pickleball twice a week. You go, hey, you got to slow down. I mean, they're going to say, this is what I live for. This is what I died for. I got to play pickleball. So they want to do regenerative medicine. They said, no, I'll do something else. Well, you have to look for an alternative. The alternative is just it's like almost like a different delivery system instead of injectable. And that is now into the world of topical, a topical application that really inhibits the actual, like the progression of the regeneration, but doesn't cause injury from that needle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. And let me tell you, we are fired up to have you here. Your likes, your subscriptions, your shares, every single one of them is a game changer for this program. This show runs on pure passion and self-funding, so your support keeps the lights on and the cameras rolling. You're not just watching, folks, you're part of the team. Keep that engagement coming, because together we're taking this show to the next level. Now here's where you come into the game. We want your suggestions, potential guests, topics you're excited about, stories you want to hear, industry professionals, friends in the field, subjects that fire you up. Send them all our way. Your input shapes this show, folks. The ball is in your court, so let's make it happen.
Interesting. That's very cool. I like there's like so much different medicine that's coming out now. And like I said, I'm not a, medical professional, but it's very interesting to hear all the different new things that are coming out that are there to help with recovery time. And like you were saying, a lot of the athletes, they have certain times where they have to be on, they have to be going, they've got different things going on and they're training. They can't be down in a recovery period for a while. So I think this is a really cool approach to something that can, help them not just with pain, but also help regenerate, even if it's a little bit slower in the long run there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to talk a little bit more about how you came up with this program in just a minute, but like, what is the most intense recovery story for the listeners that you witnessed while working in the NFL or UCLA? And you've also worked with Olympic athletes as well, correct?
Yes. So in my role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I was a chiropractor, team chiropractor, but also I was into the specialized therapy that was kind of advanced and is time consuming because these kind of athletic trainers, there's, probably like 4 of them. And then they have to deal with the 53 roster. And that's a lot of people they got to deal with. So when somebody has a condition that's kind of like, time consuming and complex, they will give that person to me. So I had a person that had a disc issue. So he was post-op and they did this test, it's like a nerve conduction test. And he still had numbness in his foot after the surgery and a little bit of weakness in that leg. So they did a nerve conduction test and it was positive in the sense that there was some type of obstruction or the nerve is not functioning correctly. So there's still some type of obstruction or some blockage or something wrong with this nerve. So the problem with that is that he just signed a big contract. The team is worried about this guy because they want their worth out of him. And then the athlete's worried about it because this could be a career-ending injury. So I get this guy. Now, when I get this guy, I assess him and I figure out that we have an issue, not so much in the lumbar area that's traveling down the leg, that's mimicking like that sciatic down to his foot. That's solved. They took that pressure off that nerve by, they call it a laminectomy when they just kind of chew down the lamina. So what it was is really in the butt area down that leg, there's a muscle called a piriformis. Well, that is also inhibiting that action of that nerve. So we started talking about how are we going to get this nerve pressure, that's been applied by this muscle called the piriformis. So we went through a lot of protocols on the actual modalities of using like a class 4 laser at a certain watts. Then we looked at a thing called ART, which is action release technique. And there's a technique in there called flossing, to floss the nerve through. And it's exercise to get the muscles to contract and to relax so that we have it commanded. Instead of being subconsciously contracting, it's that world of, commanding it in your conscious sight. So it took me probably every day for a good, like 2 months of doing this therapy. We're going and we're progressing. Just everything is going perfectly. He started getting more muscle function back. His nerve sensations returning back. And the best thing about it is that now he's able to start moving and running. He's getting back to normal gait. So all the medical staff thought that he was done. That was it. This injury is basically a career-ending injury. He's not going to turn. Well, as he's progressing, we take the test, the nerve conduction test, and it comes back normal. Unusual. Now, this guy is static. He's back in the field. That is a huge success from that particular injury of, if you could talk to anybody in the sports world, when you have that sciatic issue that's after a surgery that's still there, that's a huge implication that there's going to be some prolonged damage to that area. To get him to get out of that world and back to the field and have a career back in the NFL world, huge. So that's probably the biggest success that I had in therapy here.
That's incredible. I love how you talked about that. Like it's just nothing, but just this is how. That's amazing. That's incredible. Wow, what a
Oh, it's just a normal day in my day here.
no big deal. Well, so tell me a little bit. Like you went chiropractor and then cell regeneration.
Yeah.
When did you decide you wanted to do the cell regeneration side of everything?
Great question. Everybody asks me, how did you as a chiropractor get involved with this thing? So back in Los Angeles, when I was working at UCLA, well, in addition there, I had a practice outside and I was involved with, this new therapy, or this, it wasn't new, but it was a therapy that was going on called prolotherapy. Prolotherapy is basically you inject like sugar water into your body, into that damaged area that you're injured, and the body thinks it's an antigen. It makes antibodies, it makes scar tissue. It starts doing an inflammatory response faster. Anyways, that was that. So then it evolved to PRP. So then, I'm working with PRP patients and doctors and sending my patients there and then having it in my office. And we're doing that. Then it moved to PRP. Then it moved to stem cell therapy where it takes it out of your own body from your adipose tissue, your fat tissue, or your bone marrow. And then it moves into, you get the donor tissue from the umbilical cord and a tissue called Wharton's jelly. And then that does better because it's a younger, vibrant tissue that can signal. And people think that these stem cells are something that mutates or changes or differentiates into your cell. It doesn't. It's signaling. It's all about signaling. And you're going to hear things called cell-free regenerative medicine. That's like a cell. It just has information in the cell without the DNA component in there. Because you don't want the DNA. Because DNA, if it's the live cell, this DNA is going to replicate. It's going to turn into something. So, it could be a DNA of a hair follicle or an elbow or a bone that's going to go into your ligament. And then what's it going to turn into, right? So you got to be careful when you think about these things called live cells. So, but I saw that, and then because I'm working with these athletes, I'm seeing it all the time with this kind of regenerative medicine, and then I incorporate that. So that's why I saw that kind of like that deficiency during the season about stem cell therapy. So from that point on, I said, well, we have to do something to get this delivered to them without that downtime from the injection, and that's where I developed the topical side of it. So it's so interesting how that was developed. And then at the same time, there was a quarterback that needed that because he was starting the season, big name quarterback. And he helped me develop because I was still a little bit at the very end of my R&D testing phase. And then once he tried it, he's in the season, he's applied it in high pressure. He was able to play the season, not report his injury, and more importantly, got a better contract. So that proved that thing really has its effect during the season. And now it's easy to switch that from the NFL professional athletes down to civilian world and apply it that way.
That's incredible. Wow. That's amazing. And that's going to be really encouraging to see that. I'm sure there's like a lot of testing and things obviously that goes along, but it's really nice to be able to see that somebody else is being able to extend their career or recover completely or something to that effect from what you're helping to develop and bring to the world. So how has that process been getting that going into now the program that you have now? You've got a patent pending. What is that like to take your baby and send it out into the world in that way?
It's exciting, fun. My personality, I love challenges. It's kind of dangerous too, like too much challenges makes it like a very stressful environment to be around me. But I love that side where it's a pretty much like a thought, an idea, something, and then getting it into a tangible thing that now it's out there. So when you start something at the very beginning, it's a blessing and curse. The blessing is no competition. I'm the first. I got a patent pending. It's recorded. It's about to be, passed here to get the actual patent. But the curse is I have to educate people what stem cells really do. And the worst thing about this whole thing is that once you see this trend going on, you're going to see people copying me. You're going to see things that, I don't mind. That's a great way of telling me that I'm doing something right. When someone takes my product and says, I'm going to clone that, I'm going to steal that, goes, hey, I love that. That tells me that I'm on the right path. So if you're that type of person that loves to see that challenge apply to you and be in harm's way and fight through that thing, come on board. This is it. This is the side of business that some love and others stay away from.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You speak to my heart on that one because I actually love chaos. I was talking to somebody the other day about it, and they're just like, the every day, I love those people. I appreciate those people that keep me running, that keep me going. But in the end of the day, I like something that's like ever changing and different and new and pushing the boundaries and trying something that a lot of people haven't done before and forwarding good causes. Like that's my kind of thing. And I appreciate, those that aren't necessarily like that because they take care of the person I don't want to take care of in the world. But it's a different a different mindset. So it's funny that you say that. I resonate very soundly with that. So thank you.
Hey, you know that, sometimes this is what I feel like when someone, you're always going to have someone antagonize you or somehow like, pirate your thing. There's always going to be somebody trying to do something negatively or steal or something to you, right? And I feel that in the past, you see these great inventors like, like Tesla, right? When you see what he's been through, and he never made it because everybody kind of jumped on his back and stole his idea and took his stuff. And then, I mean, he was a great inventor, but didn't have that business side of it. He trusted people. I can definitely see it on my side. I can see people that I trust. I think they're family, and all of a sudden they burn me, they steal, they do things, and they're very, unethical. And that's the most interesting thing is that greed, money really shows the true, the character inside them.
So true. It's so true. And you have to have a very resilient mind. Like, almost be regeneration therapy for your mind, right? And it will sometimes come back from those things because it's funny, as you're growing up, you're trained that the bad guy looks like the person running around with the black and white bars on their clothes. And they're not like that in the real world. They're a lot of times very close to you. Sometimes they're people that most of the times they're people you never would have thought that they would have been. So yeah.
We must have the mutual friend. You know that, right?
I think it's called the industry. There's just those people, yeah.
But the worst thing about it is that it could be in form of a competitor, or it could be like a family friend, someone that's you've known over 10 years. You bring them on board, and next thing you know, the truth comes out, the greed comes out, and then it's like, where's this person? Why are you doing this? And then you figure out that they have their alternative motives, or worse, they really want to take. And that's where you start seeing inventors and developers taken advantage of.
That's exactly right. And sometimes maybe they didn't even realize how misguided it could be until you get into that scenario. And then, you're right. Greed, money, opportunity does a lot to people, especially when they're realizing how the ins and outs of things. So totally understand.
So all you guys out there that start off in some type of product development, your own business, the person you trust the most is yourself. Trust yourself. Don't take the shortcut. There are difficult tasks ahead of you. Just find out how to do it. There's so many good information out there from ChatGPT. There's AI. There's all kinds of stuff that can help you along with those difficult, like taxes, fulfillment centers. There's going to be things that help you out. I took the lazy route at the very beginning, and then I applied it so hey, let me have someone help me out. And that's where the trouble started. So all you guys learn from my lesson, do it for yourself.
That's actually, I love that. That's so true. I appreciate you sharing that. That's very real. It's a very true statement, y'all. So just remember that for sure. So Dr. Rhee, when you're talking with athletes and stuff, what are some things that they can do or that they're doing wrong in their training, or something that you would suggest from a chiropractor perspective, from cell regeneration, that medical stuff? What would you suggest to athletes, whether they're professionals or wanting to get into it, that would help not just prolong their careers with, stretching, exercises? What would you, eating healthy? I mean, obviously, yes, do all the above, right? But is there anything specific, like key-wise, that you would give to an athlete who's starting out?
So I try to teach athletes the basics of what their body's going through in a workout or a game or injury. And then the next component is recovery. Recovery is really important. There's a time consumption, right? There's always the classic 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Everybody's different. The younger you are, you heal faster. The older you are, slower process. So the goal is to find something that speeds up their healing, their recovery. You've got to find something out, either a therapist or a doctor like myself that understands sports related injury, or some modality, equipment, or even stem cells, topical like Regen, something that helps you speed up the healing process so you recover, so you're back on the field. What people do in the athletic, even on a weekend warrior kind of guy, they overtrain, they overwork, they constantly get a sprain, something that's injured, but they keep going on it. So now you have like a grade 1 tear, but you keep pushing it, what turns into a grade 2, grade 3, pretty soon it's going to be a rupture, and then you have to do surgery. If you would have took the time to just recover correctly, got it back to 100%, then apply that pressure, you're back to normal. So that's the biggest thing I'm trying to educate these athletes. Know about pushing, going to that distance, but knowing about the recovery component of it. And that recovery component could be a person like me, stem cell therapy, Regen, something that helps you shorten that recovery to get you back in 100%.
I love that. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Do you have anything else that you would like to share? How can people find you to work with you? Ways to start working with you for cell regeneration, things like that, or chiropractor, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Tampa, Florida, so just come on down, just knock on that door and wake me up and we'll go at it. No, but you can go to my website, which is Regen, RHEEGEN.com. And you can learn about Regen topical stem cell product. And then if you have any questions, just hit the info button and then shoot me a question. I've got a book out there because the book helps me save time, because every time somebody asks me a question, I would answer the same question and answer all that stuff. So the thing with that is that I said, hey, why don't I go ahead and write this book? And so when somebody asks me these questions, I say, hey, here's a book. There's your answers in there. Have fun with that stuff. So you can find that book on Amazon, The Future of Regenerative Medicine, and just type my name, RHEE. It should pop up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on here and sharing your wisdom and everything. And guys, definitely reach out to Dr. Rhee here, because he's got some really cool stories of wisdom, a fun person. Don't burn him,
I know who you guys are. Watch out now.
Yeah, after experiencing a couple of times, you got multiple eyes on the back of your head, so it doesn't happen again. All right, cool, guys. Definitely support. Reach out. If you guys have any guests that you would want to see on the show, please email us at hey@malabashentertainment.com, and we'll be happy to look into those for you as well. Take care, and we'll see you back here next time.